Okay, our next topic is audit planning. No? So audit planning is about establishing the overall audit strategy for the engagement and developing an audit plan in order to reduce audit risk to an acceptably low level. If ever planning is to be summarized into one word lang, no, I would say it's effectiveness. So you want to achieve your goal of expressing an appropriate opinion on the financial statements due to your constraints of time, cost, and quality, dapat ang mga kilos natin ay dinumero. Okay, so that's why we plan in order to make sure that we maximize our effectiveness based on the constraints that are there. And we also want to properly assign the work to the different team members, no? Yung ating partner or engagement team leader, yung ating manager, senior associates, and associates. Okay, so what are the benefits of planning? No? Okay, first benefit is appropriate attention is devoted to important areas of the audit. No? If we do not plan, at first, pag nakita mo ang financial statements, it would seem that all accounts are of equal importance when in fact they are not of equal importance. May mga account dyan na mas binabantayan ng users of the FS and therefore, misstatements in those accounts, mas matindi ang impact sa mga nagbabasa. May mga account din na may tendency mapabayaan ng client and therefore, mas mataas ang risk of misstatement. So, appropriate attention is devoted to important areas of the audit. Another benefit is potential problems are promptly identified. For example, pag may multi-location audits kayo, ang audit nyo nandito sa Makati, tapos meron kang offsite facility titignan din na nasa Alabang, tapos meron sila mga warehouse sa Pampanga. That would require uh, planning in advance. Logistics nyo pa lang, possible problems ma-encounter, nababantayan at nakikita kagad pag nagplano tayo. Work is completed expeditiously, which means mabilis ang kilos natin kasi we identified already what are the things that we need to do. So work is done in a fast manner, in an efficient manner. Assist in proper utilization of assistance. Kasi we were able to identify, okay, ito mga gagawin nating trabaho. Ngayon, sinong staff ang best para sa ganitong trabaho? Sinong staff ang a-assign na medyo mas mahirap na trabaho? Sinong staff ang pwedeng bigyan na ng mas mabigat na responsibilities? Dagdag training niya na rin yon. So, it assists in proper assignment of work to our different audit staff and assistants. Direction and supervision. Paano mo titignan yung trabaho ng staff mo kung di mo plinano? Okay, kailangan may coordination kayo. Ito gusto kong matapos mo. Ito ang aking expected output. Okay, babalikan kita, titignan natin ano mga nagiging problema. With proper planning, direction and supervision is much easier. Nakalista yung gagawin, meron kayong coordination, kailan kayo magkikita, at in case there are any problems, naa-adjust kagad yung plano, timetable, and so on. Assist in coordination of work done by other auditors and experts. Imagine kung very large group of companies spanning 15 countries, kung hindi nyo plaplanuhin ang audit, magiging magulo, hindi efficient, baka di nyo matapos ng maayos ang audit ninyo. Okay? Sometimes yung mga audit na ganun kalaki, several auditing firms pa ang kasali. Okay? So let's say in country 1, one auditing firm. In country 2, another auditing firm. And then one auditing firm will handle this part and that part. Paano kayo magko-coordinate kung di kayo magplaplano? Okay? So proper planning ensures magkakaswak yung mga trabaho ninyo. No? Nababawasan yung chance na may magdoble ng trabaho, may trabahong walang gumawa kasi inassume nung isa siya gumawa. So those are the benefits of audit planning as you can see, numbers 1 to 6. Next, we have nature and extent of planning. Minsan kasi class, natatanong sa board exam kung kailan mas malaki ang extent ng planning at kung kailan mas konti ang planning. No? Okay, so let's give a rundown. Size of client, mas malaking client, syempre mas extensive ang pagpaplano. Smaller client, less extensive. Experience. Pag first time i-audit ang client, mas matinding planning. Kasi marami ka ring procedures for obtaining understanding of the client, its environment, obtaining understanding ng financial reporting standards nila or framework, okay, tsaka ng kanilang internal control. In contrast, pag recurring audit, which means na audit mo na sila dati, tapos o-audit mo ngayon, kahit papaano meron ka ng background sa client na yan, less extensive na ang planning mo. Type of transactions, of course, pag more complex ang transactions, it requires more extensive planning. Simple transactions require less extensive planning. Developments, kung may mga nagbago dun sa client. For example, na-acquire sila ng isa pang company na ino-audit mo rin or nag-acquire sila ng subsidiary. Okay? So definitely, there would be a big change. Okay? Compare mo naman sa client na no significant change ay mas extensive ang planning pag may significant change. Less extensive ang planning pag no significant change. The timing of appointment of the auditor is also important. Earlier appointment, makakapag-start ng mas maaga sa pag-audit, makakapag-plan na rin kagad, okay, and therefore, mas efficient ang trabaho. However, take note that just because the auditor was appointed earlier doesn't mean na mas maaga ring marirelease ang audit report. It's not always the case. Sometimes yung client, masyadong marami talagang problems encountered, maraming issues, kaya kahit maaga na appoint ang auditor, minsan matagal pa rin bago mabigay ang report. Okay? Ang masasabi lang natin, earlier appointment, more time for planning, more efficient. That's it. Assets generally require more audit time as compared to other elements, no? And planning is a continuous process. Okay? Normally, planning will start at the end of the previous audit. At the end of the previous audit, nagplaplano na for the next audit. Okay? And then, planning continues until the end of the current engagement. So kung ita-timeline mo yan, katatapos lang ng previous audit, start na ng planning. Tapos dire-diretso yan, no? Hanggang doon sa dulo. Okay? Planning is not only at the start of the engagement. It continues all throughout. And sometimes plans have to be revised in view of subsequent developments. Kaya dapat may planning all throughout tayo. Okay. Okay, next, outputs naman ng audit planning, no? We have two outputs, the audit strategy and the audit plan. Now, the audit strategy is the approach that we take. Okay, ito yung discarding gagawin natin sa ating audit. It sets out the scope, the timing, and the focus of the audit. Okay, we will discuss strategies in audits, okay, in another quick bit. But for now, ang tatandaan, audit strategy, it gives us the general direction, no? The general idea, the general direction about how the audit will be performed. Of course, we need to flesh it out with actual procedures. Every step of the audit from beginning until the end, isusulat sa isang audit plan naman. So the audit plan, okay, fleshes out the audit strategy. Okay, strategy gives direction, anong approach. Ngayon yung audit plan, ano mga gagawin mong procedures? Nature, anong procedures ang gagawin? Timing, kailan gagawin? Extent, how many transactions will be tested? Gaano karami ang titignan? Ng planned risk assessment procedures, further audit procedures, and other planned audit procedures in accordance with standards. Ngayon, part ng audit plan is the audit program. Audit program is an itemized list ng mga test of controls and substantive tests. Okay. Sometimes they are grouped by transaction cycle. Sometimes they are grouped by account. No? Cash, AR, inventory, hanggang owner's equity, and so on. It also includes sino naka-assign sa bawat step and columns for proper control. May mga columns din sa dulo. After every step, sa dulo nakalagay budgeted time tsaka actual time. Of course, during planning, budgeted time pa lang ang nakalagay doon. No? Ilang minuto aabutin ang pag-perform ng step na to. Gaano katagal to. Tapos blanco pa yung actual time. So for those of you wondering, saan naka-base yung budgeted time? Naka-base yan sa experience sa previous audit. Nino-note yung oras, gaano katagal ginagawa ang bawat procedure. Okay, so audit strategy, okay na. Audit plan, okay na rin. Audit programs. Okay. Okay, para mas ma-relate natin sa, mas maintindihan natin yung lesson, let us apply audit planning concept sa review natin. Audit strategy, gawin nating review strategy. Ano yung dalawang review strategy natin? With reliance on stock knowledge or no reliance on stock knowledge. Okay. Pag inadapt mo ang with reliance on stock knowledge na review strategy, sigurado ang review plan mo, magfo-focus more on, magquick wins ka muna, then sagot ka na kagad ng mga exercises natin. Okay, then kung meron kang di maintindihan sa exercises, yun ngayon ang babalikan mo sa live lecture at sa pre-recorded. Okay, so mabilis ang trabaho do'n, ano? Kasi ang assumption natin, ang strategy natin, with reliance on stock knowledge. With reliance strategy, ang review mo, focus sa, mabilisang tingin ng concept, sagot agad, babalikan na lang yung mga di maintindihan. Okay, 'pag no reliance naman ang review strategy mo, baliktad. Ang magiging review plan mo naman do'n, yung procedures, yung plan mong gagawin, sigurado mas malalim. You start with the pre-recorded, okay? Babalikan mo sa live lecture, baka may dagdag techniques, okay? Which usually meron, siyempre. Tapos, ah, dadaanin mo ngayon sa maraming pagsasagot ng mga assessment and exercises, and then polishing mo yung quick wins. So, pabaliktad naman, no? Basa muna, todo aral muna, tsaka magsasagot. Okay. Sir, ano naman yung audit programs 'pag in-apply natin sa review? 'Pag in-apply mo sa review, parang 'yan yung daily to-do list mo. Okay, so day 1 ng review, anong babalikang quick bid? Anong sasaguting exercise? Day 2, anong quick bid, anong exercise? Baka may babalikan na sa live lec, baka may babalikan na sa pre-recorded. So, from start until the end, may to-do list ka. Yun yung parang review program mo. So ulit strategy yung diskarte mo. With reliance, no reliance. Yung plan, based sa strategy, based kung may reliance o wala, gagalaw ngayon ang plano mo, yung listahan ng gagawin mo. Pag dinivide mo na yan sa araw-araw na gagawin, yun ngayon yung program. Okay, so mas naintindihan na. We now proceed with the different major planning activities. There are 8. No? First, we obtain understanding of the client and its environment, the applicable financial reporting framework, and its internal control. The more we understand about the client, the better we can do steps 2 onwards. Step 2, based sa industry ng client at sa nalaman natin about applicable standards, internal control, malalaman din natin if we're going to need experts. Step 3, nakilala mo na ang client at environment nila. Aware ka na sa industry nila at kung ano ang measures of performance sa company na yan. May idea ka na rin what kind of users will be reading the financial statements. And I tell you, different kinds of users, okay, will focus on different areas of the FS. May mga client na ang users nakafocus sa cash flow. May mga client na karamihan ng users nakafocus sa certain ratios. May nakafocus sa balance sheet. May mga client na nasa industry na karamihan ng kanilang investors and creditors, risk takers. Meron din mga client na nasa industry na karamihan ng kanilang investors and creditors ay mga risk averse o yung masyadong conservative, ayaw masyadong mag-risk. So depende sa pagkakakilala mo sa client, you can now establish materiality. Ano yung makaka-affect? Ano yung may malaking impact na mali? O pag nagkaroon ng mali, okay, pero di na-i-correct, gaano kalaki impact nito sa nagbabasa. Kaya alam mo yung impact kasi nagawa mo step 1. Kaya mahalaga ang step 1, may separate quick bid yan. Okay? You also assess risk. So again, obtain understanding ng client, its environment, applicable standards and controls. Determine the need for experts, establish materiality and risk. Remaining procedures. We assess the possibility of non-compliance. We identify related parties. Itong step 6, required talaga. We perform preliminary analytical procedures. And then we developed our strategy and detailed audit plan. Good news, naka-template na po yan. Normally, we don't do that from scratch. May template na tayo. Okay, now based on sa template, ine-edit, kino-customize natin. Okay, as a result nung natutunan natin sa mga previous steps, mula step 1 hanggang step 6. Okay, so sa step 7, get a template na strategy and plan, edit na lang. Okay, mas madali lalo kapag previous client na yan. Kasi may audit plan and strategy na yan from previous periods. Ang iingatan na lang is, we need to make sure na updated na natin yung plan at program. Hindi basta kinapi-paste mo lang. Kasi baka may situations before na di na applicable ngayon. Baka may situation ngayon na wala dati. Okay, then of course, you prepare your preliminary audit programs. Take note na itong step 7 at 8, naka-draft pa yan. Draft. That is subject to finalization. Kailan niya mafa-finalize? kapag na-consider na ang controls. Nasa susunod na mga quick video. Okay? Major planning activities. Okay, first step natin is to obtain an understanding of the entity, applicable financial reporting framework, and its internal control. So we identify and understand ano bang mga events, ano mga transactions and practices na may effect, okay, sa financial statements, sa engagement, or the audit report. Okay, there's a separate quick vid where we will itemize, no? What are the things that need to be researched about the client and what procedures we will perform. Okay, the understanding that we obtain about the entity, the standards, and its internal control will assist us in assessing risk and in identifying problems in advance so that we can perform our planning and, of course, perform our audit effectively and efficiently. Okay, so what procedures do we use when we obtain understanding of the client, its environment, standards, and internal controls? We perform risk assessment procedures or RAP. Ano yung apat na risk assessment procedures? Inquiry, inspection, observation, analytical procedures. Required po in every audit. Okay, ang risk assessment procedures. Next naman natin is to determine the need for experts. So at this point, nag-obtain na tayo ng understanding ng client, na-identify na natin anong mga areas yung posibleng medyo kulang tayo sa kaalaman, okay, or kailangan natin ng dagdag tulong, we now determine the need for experts. Okay, and when we consider the services of an expert, we should evaluate yung professional competence ng expert na yan. What are the professional certifications or licenses na hawak ng expert? Saan siya member? Member ba siya ng appropriate professional body? Anong kanyang experience? Anong kanyang reputation? Okay, so usually the expert, okay, actually provides us with a short resume, no? Including a portfolio ng work done niya. Okay, and that could help us to evaluate kung magagamit ba natin yung services ng expert na yan. Okay, example sa mga expert na ginagamit natin. For example, valuation experts. In case we need additional help, okay, in evaluating, okay, evidence regarding valuation. Lawyers, pag kailangan natin ng legal opinions. Okay, statisticians, if we're going to need more advanced calculations involving statistics. So sila yung mga most common experts na ginagamit natin. Actuaries, okay, for example, may mga actuarial assumptions na mako-consider sa isang audit, we might need the services of an actuary. The next one is establishing materiality and assessing risk. So, materiality, ang naiisip natin, information is material if its omission or misstatement could influence the economic decisions of users taken on the basis of the financial statements. So, as an example, no, non-audit, yung pang-araw-araw na buhay. As an example, ano ba mga information ang material sa atin? Number one, pumunta ka ng ah, convenience store, let's say Alphamart or 7-Eleven. Bibili ka ng bread, no? Sliced bread. Gardenia o kung ano pang brand. Anong unang-una mong tinitignan aside from the brand na choice mo? Anong unang-una mong tinitignan kaagad? 'Di ba yung expiry date? Okay, the expiry date is material to us kasi okay, the expiry date is one of the information that we use to determine whether we will buy this bread or not. Some of us, yung bread 'pag malapit na sa expiry date, 3 days before, 2 days before, iba sa atin ayaw ng bumili ng bread. Okay, hanap tayo medyo mas bago-bago pa, gano'n. Iba naman sa atin kahit na bukas ng expiry, okay lang. Hindi pa pala expired. Sige, okay pa 'to, makakain ko naman lahat 'to. So gano'n, 'no? So ang point ko, yung expiry date, important 'yan sa atin. That's why 'pag misstated ang expiry date, ay magkakamali-mali tayong desisyon. Had I known na mali ito, hindi ko sana ito binili. Parang gano'n, 'no? Okay, so example ng materiality, ha. Another example, yung relo mo, 'no, relo ay, ah, yung relo mo de baterya. Okay, de baterya. Okay, so ngayon nag-e-exam ka daw. Okay, nasa exam ka. Tumingin ka sa relo mo, sabi mo, "Ay, ano 'to, 'tong relo ko," sabi ng relo ko, Meron pa akong 30 minutes. So, tinignan mo raw yung test. Okay pa 'to, kaya ko pa 'to. Okay, tapos, ah, hindi mo napansin, hindi na pala umaandar yung relo mo, 'no? Ano na, dead battery na yung relo mo. Okay, so ang basihan mo ng desisyon, yung oras na 'yan. Aba, wala pang 5 minutes, 'di ba iniisip mo 30 minutes pa ang ano mo, so medyo bumagal ka, may time pa ako, magagawa ko pa 'tong mas maayos, magco-compute pa ako. Okay, mga 5 minutes na lang, biglang nag-announce yung proctor, "Oh, last 5 minutes." Okay, nagulat ka, "Ha? Last 5 minutes? Kung alam ko lang na 5 minuto na lang." Teka, tama ba 'to? Baka naman ano, para may mali yata si proctor, last 5 minutes. Okay, tsaka mo ngayon nalaman 'no, na mali pala 'tong relo mo. Huminto na, tinignan mo mabuti yung relo, huminto nga. Ang tamang oras, kanina pa talagang 5 minuto na lang, tapos na ang time. Nagkaripas ka ngayon. Ano yung pakiramdam mo nung moment na ma-discover mong mali pala yung oras, okey? Yun ang essence ng materiality diyan. Yun ang essence ng materiality diyan. Kaso we will apply it on the basis of financial statements. Tumitingin ka sa income, tumitingin ka sa total assets, tumitingin ka sa composition ng assets na yon. Tinitignan mo yung current liab versus non-current liab. Nagko-compute ka ng ratios. At base sa nakita mo, nagdedesisyon ka ngayon. Investor, creditor, employees, labor union, BIR. Okay? The different users of the FS are making decisions based on what they see. Okay? So, kung yung information na yan ay nagkamali at dahil sa pagkakamali, naimpluwensyahan ang desisyon, okay, na nagbabasa, ang tawag sa information na yan, material yan. Okay? Material yan. O sa gamot, example ng materiality sa gamot, baka may contraindication, bawal to sa buntis, bawal sa merong allergy sa ganitong ingredient. 'Pag na-omit 'yon, okay, baka may makabiling hindi dapat uminom niyan. Kung alam lang nila yung bawal pala 'to sa kanila, 'di nila 'yan bibilhin. So, omission of that disclosure would be material. 'Yun yung meaning ng materiality. Okay, malinaw na, ha? So, what is material is a matter of professional judgment. Materiality should be considered by the auditor 'pag dinetermine natin anong nature, extent, and timing ng substantive test. At 'pag nag-evaluate tayo, ito bang misstatement na 'to, mabigat o hindi? We consider materiality. Okay, so we now proceed to levels of materiality, no? Okay. There are three levels. Meron tayong overall materiality, performance or scoping materiality, and specific materiality. Examples to follow. Simulan na natin. Okay, 'pag sinabi nating overall materiality, it's the materiality level determined at the overall financial statement level. Helps the auditor to determine whether proposed audit adjustments are significant or not. If audit adjustments exceed this level, then dapat magpa-adjust na ng FS. In previous years, previous literature sa auditing, ang tawag dyan is preliminary judgment about materiality. Now, what are the factors to consider sa overall materiality? We consider components of the FS, focus ng users, saan sila nakatingin, nature of the entity, ownership structure, volatility o yung sensitivity to change ng benchmark na pinili mo, laws and regulations. For example, per SEC, okay, ang mga account equivalent to 5% of a balance sheet or income statement line item, considered na yan ay significant na. For listed companies, mutual funds, other issuers of securities, to public and pre-need companies. Okay, for all other corporations, the threshold shall be 10% or more. Okay, doon tayo ngayon sa example, no? So, I gave an example, total assets 1 million, less liab na 700,000, total equity natin is 300,000. Okay, I also included details about sales, CGS, and gross profit. May OPEX tayo, profit before tax na 150,000, at may profit for the year na 105,000. The example, by the way, was taken from the AASC bulletin on materiality. Okay, so meron tayong data. Based on that, Let us assume the entity is a profit-oriented company. Materiality levels which the auditor may consider are as follows. Pwedeng i-consider niya yung profit before tax or i-consider niya ang sales. So let's say for profit before tax, iset niya at 5%. Based on judgment niya, iset niya at 5% ng profit before tax ang overall materiality. Then in that case, ang overall materiality mo would be 150,000 times 5%, 7,500. Kung ang iniisip naman ng auditor, ang gagamitin ko sales. Okay, so sales is 800,000. Let's say, based on judgment, iset niya at 1% ang overall. O, edi ang overall materiality is 8,000 pesos. Okay, although itong mga amount na to are acceptable, take note that there are many other factors that the auditor will need to consider in determining the correct benchmark and of course arriving at the figure for overall materiality. Okay, so let's move to the next materiality level, no, which is performance materiality. It's a certain percentage of overall materiality in order to capture any uncorrected misstatements, the total amount of which may exceed overall materiality. So, tinawag na scoping materiality itong level na to because this will help us to scope out anong FS items ang will be for further testing. Anong items would be generally considered na no longer included in our scope. So ano yung mga dapat ma-focus, ano yung mga generally hindi na dapat isama. It ensures that significant accounts in the FS are covered by audit testing. Okay, so what are the factors to consider sa performance materiality? Nature of the entity's business and transactions, risk assessment procedures, nature and extent of misstatements identified in previous audits. Okay, so let's give a comprehensive example with two situations. No? Assuming, based on the auditor's judgment, the following rationale and percentages have been determined. So I gave two situations. First one is for higher performance materiality, and the second one for lower performance materiality. Okay, doon muna tayo sa higher performance materiality. Let us assume na yung client natin, based on our understanding of that client, the overall engagement risk is low. Okay? History of book audit adjustment, konti lang or wala. So in the past, hindi nagpapa-adjust diyan kasi matino yung FS ng client. Fraud risk mababa. So what threshold will be adopted based on professional judgment and understanding of the client? The threshold to be adopted would be 25% lower than overall materiality, which means kung ito ang overall materiality mo, babawasan ng 25% yan, okay? At yung makukompute mong amount, yun ang performance materiality mo. Again, overall materiality, babawasan, at kung nabawasan na, yung maiiwan, yun ang tinatawag mong performance materiality. Anong tawag doon sa amount na binawas? In this case, 25%. Ang tawag dyan, haircut. Okay? Baka lang matanong sa board. Okay? Pag sinabi sa itang haircut, that's the amount that was cut from the overall materiality. Yan yung binawas para makuha ang performance materiality. So in our example, overall materiality natin, babawasan ng 25%, yung mako-compute mo, yun ang iyong performance materiality. Okay. Sir, ano tong nasa baba? Reminder lang yan. Pag mababa ang risk sa isang engagement, mataas ang maiiwan na performance materiality. Maliit lang ang haircut. O, malinaw ha? Pag mababa ang risk sa isang engagement, mababa risk, okay, maliit lang ang haircut, mataas ang maiiwan na performance materiality. Okay, so inverse sila, no? Okay. Apply na natin. Okay. 'Di ba binigyan ko kayo ng dalawang sitwasyon kanina, no? Overall materiality based on profit before tax, overall materiality based on sales. Doon muna tayo sa based on profit before tax. So kung ang overall materiality mo 7.5 times 25%, ang haircut o ikakaltas 1,875. Compute na tayo. 7.5 minus 1,875, performance materiality is 5,625. Ngayon, kung ang gagamitin mo naman ay sales, 8,000 overall materiality times 25% haircut. Ang haircut mo ay 2,000. Okay, 8,000 minus haircut na 2,000, performance materiality mo 6,000. Ano ngayon ang gamit niyan, sir? Apply natin. Basahin lang yung baba, no? Kasi mahalaga yan. As calculated above, all FS line items above the performance materiality are required to be included in the scope of the audit. Okay, lahat ng lagpas. Okay, so try natin. If we base our materiality on profit before tax, naalala doon sa previous slide, no? And the performance materiality is 5,625, then pag ang account balance ay 5,000, ito yung 5,625 na performance materiality mo. Ito ngayon yung account na nakita mo, 5,000, ay below siya, do nothing. There is no risk of material misstatement. Okay. Sir, kung yung account balance na makita ko, 5,700. Ang 5,700 mataas ng konti kay 5,625. Maliit lang yung difference, no? Kaya nga sinabi diyan, the item is not material. But since it is above the performance materiality of 5,625, anong sabi natin kanina? All items above performance materiality required to be included in the scope of the audit. Since yung 5,700 lumagpas kay performance materiality, dapat mag-perform ng procedures dyan. Okay? Let's say mag-perform ng analytical procedures. Paano kung yung item na nakita ay 8,000, yung account balance ay 8,000? 8,000, malayo na yan sa 5,625. Much more than, hindi lang siya above, much more than performance materiality. More evidence needs to be gathered to be deemed sufficient. So, hindi na enough ang analytical procedures niya, mas malalim na. Test of transactions might be performed here. Okay. Alright, next. As promised, tignan natin yung kabilang side. Okay. What if mataas ang engagement risk? What if madalas ang booked adjustments in previous years mataas, no? Frequent ang booked adjustments. Fraud risk high. So anong threshold will be adopted based on professional judgment and understanding of the entity? As you can see, mas malaki ang haircut, mas malaki ang kinaltas pag mataas ang risk, malaki ang haircut from overall materiality. Mababa ang maiiwan na performance materiality. Mataas ang risk, mababa ang performance materiality maiiwan. Ang laki ng haircut. Sir, ibig sabihin, naghigpit. Oo, naghigpit tayo. Okay? Kasi pag binaba mo performance materiality, mas maliit yung threshold mo. Mas maraming account na aabot dyan. At pag mas maraming account na aabot dyan, ang usapan natin, lahat ng aabot dyan ay kasama sa ating scope ng audit. Okay, ituloy natin. So, one more time, higher risk, mababa performance materiality. Higher risk, malaki ang haircut kay overall, malaki kakaltas kay overall, maliit maiiwang performance materiality. Apply na natin, no? Okay, two situations again. If based on profit before tax tayo, naalala kanina 7.5 ang ating overall. Times the haircut, 50%. Kaltas, 3,750. Ang naiwang performance materiality, 3,750. Kung tayo naman based on sales, 8,000. Haircut, 50%. Okay, so 4,000 ang ikakaltas, 4,000 na maiiwang performance materiality. As calculated above, all FS line items above performance materiality are required to be included in the scope of the audit. Compared to our previous example, the haircut is larger. Performance materiality becomes smaller. So kung mas maliit ang performance materiality, mas maraming account na madadamay sa scope ng testing natin. Mas maraming testing na gagawin. Apply na natin ulit. Okay. So, applying, if we base our materiality on profit before tax and performance materiality is 3,750. Notice, bumaba ang performance materiality. Okay? Therefore, yung kanina, medyo mas mataas ang performance materiality natin. Nasa 5,625. Ngayon, bigla natin ginawang 3,750. Okay, dahil naging 3,750, lahat ng account sa example natin kanina, yung account balance na 5,000, yung account balance na 5,700, yung account balance na 8,000, lahat sila pasok na. Performance materiality mo andito, lahat silang tatlo pasok na. Okay, all of these items are now within the scope of our testing. Nung bumaba ang performance materiality, dumami ang dapat nating i-test. Okay, so a final reminder before we proceed to the next level of materiality, no? Ah, sabi natin kanina, generally speaking, no, pag nag-set ka ng performance materiality, lahat ng above ay madadamay sa required na maisama sa scope of testing natin. Lahat ng below, okay, ay, well, to sa example natin, we did nothing, no? Okay, pero ito ang tatandaan, guys, no? It is not appropriate to automatically exclude all balances below performance materiality level from audit testing. Okay? So the auditor should ensure, no, na yung total amount ng excluded FS line items should not be above overall materiality. Dapat yung total ng mga nasa ilalim ng performance materiality, yung total nung na-exclude, na ito di natitignan. Dapat pag tinotal yan, hindi yan lalagpas sa overall materiality. Sir, paano pag lumagpas? Well, otherwise, the auditor should design audit procedures to reduce the total amount of excluded FS line items below overall materiality. Okay, so we now proceed with specific materiality, which is the last level of materiality. No? It is the amount set by the auditor for particular classes of transactions, account balances, or disclosures for which misstatements, well, though lower than overall materiality, could reasonably be expected to influence the economic decisions of FS users. Okay, in simple terms, sometimes it is not enough to set performance materiality to capture, no, to capture certain transactions na masyadong sensitive sa mga small changes in amount. So, aside from performance materiality, we set something lower, okay, for specific types of transactions. Yun yung tinatawag na specific materiality. Kasi nga may mga amount, okay, na talagang konting changes lang, eh, nakaka-influence kagad ng decisions ng users. Okay, let's give the example. No? Okay, assume that the auditor has assessed that there are specific users, no, who expect a lesser level of misstatement in management compensation. So in other words, ito yung mga FS users na sensitive, no, sa yung apektado sila, mahalaga sa kanila yung amount ng binabayad kay management. Okay. So the auditor may consider setting a specific materiality level lower than the performance materiality. Okay. I think you have learned in previous examples na pag binaba mo ang materiality, okay, dumadami yung mga account na nadadamay sa required scope of our audit. So if you set materiality lower, you end up performing more procedures, gathering more evidence. Yun na reason kaya sinabi dyan, in order to obtain higher comfort on the procedures performed. When you set your materiality lower for a specific item, then that means that you are gathering more evidence, okay, to get more assurance for that particular item. Okay, sa example natin, nag-adapt siya ng 50% threshold below performance materiality. Okay, so from performance materiality, bumaba pa siya lalo, 50% lower. Okay, if you could recall kanina, dalawa yung basis natin. No? We use profit before tax, we also use sales. Kay performance materiality, nag-set tayo ng higher performance materiality tsaka ng lower performance materiality. Kinalahati ko lang yon at yan ang ating mga naset na specific materiality. One more time, three levels of materiality: overall, performance materiality, and specific materiality. Okay, we now proceed to additional notes. No? Auditors can also set a clearly trivial level of misstatements in order to further increase efficiency of audit effort. So in short, magseset siya ng level na pag ito nakita mo talagang totally di mo na siya pinapansin. So example, pwedeng iset natin 5% ng overall materiality, yan yung clearly trivial. Okay. However, take note, apply professional judgment. Materiality is not all about amounts. Okay? It's also about the nature of the item. So some statements are not clearly trivial even though less than sila sa figure na naiset natin, which is 5%. So pwede maliit lang yung amount, pero maapektuhan talaga. Okay, tayo due to some other factor. So tandaan, judgment carefully exercised dapat. Additional notes natin, huwag kalimutan, no? Although makulit. Okay, lower risk means setting higher materiality. And when you set materiality higher, bawas ang audit testing. Higher risk, you set materiality lower, and dumadami ang audit testing. So risk and audit procedures, may direct relationship, materiality and risk, inverse relationship. Okay, we now proceed with audit risk. Audit risk is the chance that the auditor gives an inappropriate audit opinion when financial statements are materially misstated. Okay, the auditor should use professional judgment to assess audit risk and to design audit procedures to ensure that audit risk is reduced to an acceptably low level. Okay, we know audit risk has three components: inherent risk, control risk, and detection risk. Let's begin by discussing inherent risk. No? So, inherent risk is the susceptibility or vulnerability of an account balance or a class of transactions to misstatement. For example, cash as compared to other accounts, AR, inventory, PPE. Cash is a medium of exchange, can be easily converted to other assets, and therefore it's attractive to steal or to very susceptible to theft compared to PPE, no? Ang pera madaling ibulsa, ang sofa hindi, no? Accounting requirements. Okay, some accounts have more requirements or procedures to be done compared to others. Okay, for example, ang FBPL versus sa FBOCI na debt securities. FBPL debt securities, we record interest at stated rate only. Then, nagfe-fair value ka lang at year-end. Pero ang requirements ng PFRS pag FB o CI na debt instrument, let's say bonds, nagre-record ng interest at effective rate. So, nag-a-amortize ng discount or premium. Tapos, at the same time, at year-end, magfe-fair value pa. So, mas maraming requirement, mas mahirap, uh, higher inherent risk. Another one is complexity of recording. Okay, for example, there are some accounts na mas maraming computation compared to others. Mas maraming computation, mas mataas ang inherent risk. Okay, use of judgments. Okay, compare mo for example yung pagre-record ng purchase on account, accounts payable. Sakto yung amount noon, may supporting document na vendor's invoice. Compare mo naman sa ni-record na provision for, let's say, provision for litigation loss or damages. So yung damages payable, nakabase yan sa mga estimates. Hindi siya eksakto. Okay, so less certain, less exact, mas mataas ang inherent risk. Okay. Cash, normally, pag natanong sa board exam, which account has the highest risk, pag nasa choices ang cash, yun na kagad ang sagot natin. No? Okay. Inherent risk is assessed during planning. First, we obtain an understanding of the entity, its environment, the applicable financial reporting framework, then we can check inherent risk. No? What are the qualitative factors? Okay, mentioned in PSA 315. We have complexity, subjectivity, change, uncertainty, susceptibility to misstatement due to management bias or other fraud risk factors. The next one is control risk. No? Control risk is the risk that the client's internal control system will not prevent, detect, and correct the material misstatement in a timely manner. Simply stated, it is the risk that controls do not work when needed. Okay, meron tayong dalawang levels of assessment ng control risk. High control risk is given if we believe that controls are weak or unreliable. They do not prevent, they do not detect, they do not correct material misstatements in a timely manner, or missing yung controls. Less than high control risk naman is given when we believe that controls may be reliable. Of course, dahil may professional skepticism tayo, controls must be tested just to be sure na effective nga siya. Control risk is assessed during internal control consideration, and that will be covered in another quick vid. No? We now proceed with detection risk. Detection risk naman is the risk that the auditor's substantive procedures will not detect a material misstatement. Ito yung chance na lumusot sa atin mismo yung mga misstatement. There are two subcategories ng detection risk. First, Sampling risk. Sampling risk refers to the risk that conclusions based on a sample of evidence might differ from conclusions if we tested 100%. Okay. Sir, edi ang sampling risk pala pwedeng mawala. Oo, you can eliminate sampling risk simply by testing everything. Pag tinest mo lahat, wala ng sampling. Wala ng sampling risk. How come, sir? Kahit i-test ko ang lahat, nandun pa rin yung chance na magkamali ako sa conclusions ko, even if I tested everything. Kasi meron pang non-sampling risk. Non-sampling risk naman is the risk of incorrect conclusions due to causes unrelated to sample size. Yung auditor pagod na, fatigue, or naging careless, o na-misinterpret niya ang evidence. Okay? O gumamit siya ng inappropriate procedures. All of that contribute to non-sampling risk, and non-sampling risk cannot be eliminated. They can only be reduced. More on sampling and non-sampling risk in another quick vid. Okay. For now, tatandaan, inherent risk and control risk cannot be uh, cannot be controlled by the auditor. Ang kaya lang kontrolin ng auditor is detection risk. If we increase our substantive test, detection risk will decrease, and vice versa. If we decrease our substantive test, then detection risk increases. Detection risk is initially set during planning and finalized during internal control consideration. Okay, as an intro, no? As an intro sa pag-assess ng risk, covered in another quick vid natin, punta naman tayo sa audit risk model. So, yun yung intro natin. The audit risk model is expressed as audit risk is equal to inherent risk times control risk times detection risk. No? Inherent risk and control risk together, they are known as the risks of material misstatement. Every now and then, ma-encounter ninyo sa ating slides yung acronym na ROMM, ROM. Okay, that is short for risk of material misstatement. Okay, pag sinabi nating FS level, it means that it's pervasive to the financial statements as a whole. Okay, pag sinabi namang at the assertion level, it affects only certain assertions. So pag nag-discuss tayo ng risk assessment at nakita nyo, assessed at the FS level, pangkalahatan. Assessed at the assertion level, it affects only certain assertions of the different accounts. Okay, just a few more reminders no, sa audit risk model. Okay, audit risk is equal to inherent risk times control risk times detection risk. Audit risk should be set at a sufficiently low level, while inherent risk and control risk, inherent risk ina-assess during planning, control risk assessed during internal control consideration. Okay, ang inherent risk at control risk independent of the auditor. Di niya kontrolado. Detection risk. It will depend on the combined assessment of inherent and control risk. Dependent sa auditor yan. Naalala yung sabi natin kanina, if you want detection risk to go down, dagdagan ang substantive test. If you are willing to accept higher detection risk, pwede mong bawasan ang substantive test. Okay. So apply na natin. Let's apply the audit risk model or ARM, no? In the case of bad controls. Okay, let us use arrowheads lang muna, no? Or arrows lang muna, arrows. So, audit risk, downward arrow. Siyempre, gusto mong bumaba. Inherent risk, let's assume na mataas ang inherent risk. Okay, sabi natin bad ang controls dito. So, we assess control risk at a maximum levels. Mataas din siya. Bad controls, no testing of controls anymore. As you can see, one down arrow, si audit risk, ang kalaban niya, dalawang up arrow, si inherent and control risk. So how do we result to a net down arrow sa audit risk? Dapat ang acceptable detection risk natin ay malaking down arrow para ma-offset yung dalawang up arrow ni inherent and control risk. Sir, pag malaking down arrow ang detection risk, ano ibig sabihin nun? Then that means we must increase our substantive testing. Controls are bad, control risk is high, acceptable detection risk very low, which means dapat dagdagan ang substantive test. Okay, let us apply naman the audit risk model or ARM on good controls naman. Okay, so katulad kanina, we set audit risk at a sufficiently low level, downward arrow. Inherent risk, mataas pa rin. Okay, control risk this time, we assume that controls are good. So control risk is less than high, which means big down arrow ang ating control risk. As you can see, pag pinagsama mo ang inherent risk and control risk sa example natin, no? Na-overpower na nung big down arrow yung small up arrow. So net downward na siya, which means your acceptable detection risk pwedeng higher. If you accept higher detection risk, that means you need to perform less substantive tests. Okay, in the board exam, sometimes hindi arrows or qualitative ang binibigay ng mga figures, no? Rather na info. Minsan ang binibigay sa atin amounts. Okay, so in that case, kung amounts ang binibigay, we must know how to solve them. So dito, assume natin bad controls tayo. Audit risk, gusto ng auditor 3%. Assume that inherent risk is 25%. Tapos ang control risk, okay, ingat. Controls daw are bad. Controls are unreliable or missing, or controls are weak. Accordingly, control risk is assessed at maximum or high level. When we say assessed at maximum, it means naka 100% ang control risk mo. Okay, notice. Okay, when control risk is high, okay, controls are bad, the auditor does not plan to test the effectiveness of controls anymore. And instead, the assessment of risk of material misstatement is equal to inherent risk na. Okay, pwede mo rin naman computein. 25% times 100% equals ROM of 25%. Okay, computing for detection risk now, we convert the formula or rather the equation natin AR equals IR times CR times DR, kinonvert natin to a computation of detection risk. DR is equal to audit risk divided by inherent risk times control risk. Substituting now, DR or detection risk is equal to 3% divided by parenthesis 25% times 100%. Detection risk is equal to 3% divided by 25%. Therefore, detection risk is 12%. If we set detection risk at a low level, then that means we perform more substantive tests. Let us try naman the audit risk model. Numbers pa rin, but this time good ang controls. Okay, assume again that audit risk is at 3%, inherent risk is at 25%, but this time, let us assume that controls might be effective. Okay, and therefore, we assess control risk at less than high. So less than 100%. In our example, 40% siya. So below maximum or less than high. Okay, so notice, when control risk is less than high, professional skepticism requires that the auditor should test the effectiveness of controls to verify its effectiveness. Okay, and then the ROM is also not equal to the inherent risk anymore. Kasi nakahalo na si control risk. O, isolve nga natin. Ano ang ROM natin dito? 25% times 40%. Ang ROM natin is 10%. Using our formula for detection risk that we applied earlier, okay? O, substitute na natin. DR is equal to 3% divided by 25% times 40%. DR is equal to 3% divided by 10%. Detection risk is 30%. Okay, as you can see, we are accepting a higher detection risk this time compared to sa nauna nating example. So, accepting higher detection risk means that we can perform less substantive tests. Okay, in the superseded PSA 400, okay, there is an appendix portion there kung saan nakalagay yung mga risk assessments. No? It contains a table of assessment ng inherent risk and control risk. Tapos, there's a shaded area at yung shaded area na yon is your acceptable detection risk. Okay, so let's look at the table. As you can see, inherent risk here has three assessments, high, medium, low. Then, yung assessment ng control risk, on the other side, meron ding high, medium, low. So, how do you use this table? Ipag-meet mo lang yung mga assessment. So, for example, if your assessment of inherent risk is high and your assessment of control risk is also high, put them together, magmi-meet sila sa box dito na shaded na nakasulat lowest. That means acceptable detection risk is lowest. Okay, so itry nga natin with another example. Let us assume that inherent risk is medium and control risk naman daw is low. So when you put them together, magtatagpo sila sa ang box dun sa shaded area na nakalagay higher. That means if inherent risk is medium and control risk is low, then your acceptable detection risk is higher. Okay, so ano naman ang meaning pag sinabi natin na high detection risk or low detection risk? Okay, so let us summarize it with this table. If your acceptable detection risk is low, then that means you will perform more substantive tests. So pababa tayo ng basa. The nature of your substantive test should be stricter or more effective. You will perform more tests of details and less analytical procedures. Extent ng testing natin, we will test more transactions. We will use larger sample sizes. Okay, timing ng mga substantive test would be on or very near year-end. Okay, in contrast, if your acceptable detection risk is high, then it means you will plan to perform less substantive test. Okay, less substantive test means ang nature natin, less effective or less strict procedures. We can reduce our test of details and perform more analytical procedures. We can select fewer transactions to test or we can employ smaller sample sizes. Timing ng test natin, we can start at interim. The other major planning activities na i-discuss pa natin would be steps 4 up to 8. So isa-isahin na natin, no? Okay. First is assessing the probability of non-compliance. Define muna natin what is non-compliance. Before, ang tawag sa non-compliance sa mga standards is illegal acts, no? However, it was subsequently reworded into non-compliance. Okay, a better, clearer word. It refers to acts of omission or commission by the entity being audited, which are contrary to prevailing laws or regulations. Okay, so the auditor should obtain a general understanding of the legal and regulatory framework applicable to the entity and the industry and how the entity is complying with that framework. Okay, there's a separate quick vid focusing on fraud, error, and non-compliance. The next one is identifying related parties. So related party transaction is a transfer of resources, services, or obligations between related parties, regardless of whether a price is charged or not. Okay, usually we identify related parties through inquiries, reviews of shareholder listings, and material investment transactions. Okay, clarify natin ang related parties kahit planning pa lang kasi first, there might be disclosure requirements about it. Okay, and second, part din ng ating risk assessment. Related parties on their own, they're not bad, they're not evil. Okay, it's normal to have related parties. Okay, for example, ang isang entity nakikipag-transact with another company na nai-influence niya or nai-influence siya or nakokontrol niya or nakokontrol siya. Okay, hindi masama yon. However, history has shown time and again na maraming mga acts ng fraud, okay, na nag involve ng related parties. Okay, at nandun din yung chance na the related party transaction, posible hindi naman, wala namang fraud na kasali, pero baka improperly disclosed or improperly accounted for. Because sometimes, these related party transactions involve a substance that is different from the form. Okay, kaya planning pa lang, kino-consider na natin ang related parties. Okay, as mentioned, related parties and related party transactions might be required to be disclosed by the standards. Tax laws might require adjustments affecting the FS. Yung source ng evidence nakaka-affect din sa assessment ng reliability. For example, if the document or evidence comes from an independent party, okay, that would be more reliable than a document, okay, or evidence coming from a related party. We must also consider yung motivation ng mga parties involved for the related party transactions. Another step natin sa planning is performing preliminary analytical procedures. Required po ang analytical procedures during planning. Required din siya at audit completion. Analytical procedures are evaluations of financial info made by a study of plausible relationships among both financial and non-financial data. Okay, our aim is to enhance our understanding of the client, okay, their business and the industry in which they operate. And we also aim to identify areas of potential risk. Stated in plain words, when we perform analytical procedures, we try to find the meaning behind those numbers. Okay, so for analytical procedures during planning, no? Uh, in a simplified way, pag nag-analytical tayo, we first develop an expectation, compare the expectation against actual, and in case of material fluctuations or unusual relationships that we have noticed, we inquire with management, okay, about those significant fluctuations or unusual items that we noted. Based on what they mentioned to us, yung mga paliwanag nila, we gather evidence in support of it or in contradiction of it, and then consider if we will perform additional procedures. Take note, analytical procedures only point us in the direction of a possible misstatement. It does not exactly tell us kung ano yung mali. Okay? It does not exactly tell us kung ano yung mali. There is a quick vid about audit evidence and audit procedures. We discuss further about it dun sa quick vid na yon. For now, just a few examples. Variance analysis. Compare mo prior year versus current year. Pag may nakita kang biglang laki, biglang liit, biglang nawalang account, biglang nagkaroon ng bagong account, yan yung mga for consideration natin. Trends. Okay, we compare trends ng increase or decrease over 3 periods or more. Pag mayroong unusual, yan ang starting point ng further investigation natin. Or yan ang starting point ng pagre-revise natin ng plano ng ating procedures. Budget versus actual. Yung mga variances nun, kino-consider natin. We study the relationship among account balances over time or among firms in a given industry. Reasonableness test. Okay, especially if the accounts have predictable amounts, no? And we study relationship of financial info with non-financial info. For example, nalaman natin na yung client may ongoing na kaso. So we develop an expectation na tataas ang legal expenses nila. O yun ngayon ang ko-compare mo sa actual and then you perform further yung mga steps ng analytical procedures natin. Okay, another example would be meron tayong client na nabalitaan natin na yung area nila, okay, ay tinamaan ng bagyo. So based on that info, we expect na tataas ang repairs expenses nila or magkakaroon sila ng mga possible replacement of PPE. Okay, so ganun ang pag-ano ng analytical procedures. Okay, matalas or alert ang isip natin sa pag-connect ng financial info versus non-financial info. Okay. Next naman nating class is we develop the overall audit strategy. Na-discuss na yan earlier. Overall audit strategy, yung approach na ite-take natin when performing our audit. Okay, it mentions the what, when, and how. No? What means scope o yung range of activities to be performed. When, yung timing, kailang gagawin yung procedure. At saka yung how, direction or focus. Anong mga account ang dadagdagan ng effort? Anong mga items ang i-emphasize? Do not forget that the overall audit strategy, yan ang ating blueprint for the more detailed audit plan to be created. The audit strategy is documented in an audit planning memorandum. Okay, factors for consideration pagdating sa scope. Ano yung applicable financial reporting framework or standard? Expected audit coverage natin. Baka may industry-specific requirements, lalo na yung mga industry na highly regulated such as banking. No? New client ba to o hindi? Is this a public interest entity or not? Okay, type ng system nila, manual ba or automated? Are there other parties involved in the audit? Pagdating naman sa timing, anong timetable natin? May mga deadlines ba to consider? Kapag multi-location ng audit, definitely medyo hahaba ang timing, tsaka mas complex ang paggawa ng strategy. Just to give you an idea, you cannot just say mag-meet tayo ng 11 o'clock ng umaga. Lalo na pag ang kausap mo nasa ibang bansa pala kasi multi-location kayo. Baka magkaiba kayo ng time zone. Okay, so kino-consider din yon. Timing na inventory counts. Coordination with other auditors kung meron man. Okay, yung agreement mo sa client kung kailan na submission ng reports at kailan ng progress meetings, no? Or yung tinatawag na taking stock meetings. Nasaan na ba tayo? Ano na natapos? Ano ang mga problems encountered? Okay, so yon kasama yan sa timing No? Timing factors sa pag-develop ng audit strategy. Pagdating naman sa direction or focus, anong mga account ang may higher risk of misstatement? May going concern issues ba tong client? We consider the materiality set in planning sa pag-develop ng strategy. And of course, we also consider the volume of transactions. After the audit strategy, we develop the audit plan. So based sa approach na pinili ng team, we will now create a detailed audit plan containing the description of the nature, timing, and extent of risk assessment procedures, further audit procedures, and other audit procedures required to be carried out para makakomply sa PSAs. Okay. I mentioned before na meron pa tayong audit program. No? The audit program is the itemized list of test of controls and substantive test. Part siya ng audit plan. Okay, kaya nga ayan, no, number 2, further audit procedures, nakalista po sa plan ang mga test of controls and substantive test na gagawin. Yun yung audit program natin. Okay, when we prepare our audit programs, preliminary pa lang yan, syempre. Because this list of test of controls and substantive test, usually naka-template form yan, i-customize pa yan, at ifa-finalize based on our consideration of internal controls. Columns for assigned staff, working paper references, findings, tsaka column for budgeted time and actual time, sinasama din yan to better plan and control the engagement. Documentation required natin sa planning would be the audit strategy, yung audit plan and programs, significant changes, if any, to the strategy, plan, and programs, and the reason for these changes. Now, we have other planning considerations. For example, ina-arrange natin for company assistance, tulungan tayo ng client by giving us schedules and analysis of accounts. Okay, for example, yung mga bank recon, aging schedule ng AR, yung lapsing schedule or breakdown ng PPE, beginning balance, acquisitions, disposals, impairments, depreciation computation, mga amortization table pagdating sa bonds. Okay, so yan, pwede natin pagawa kagad sa client. Mga reconciliation, pwedeng pagawa kagad sa client. Okay, we also consider the work of internal auditors. Check natin yung objectivity nila. Saan sila nagre-report? Kanino nagre-report? Competence nila. Yung effectiveness ng internal audit procedures. Take note, however, that even if we consider the work of internal auditors do not make judgments in an external audit. Okay? The exercise of professional judgment, si external auditor dapat yon. We also consider direction, supervision, and review. Okay, direction means the provision of instructions to staff. Supervision naman, we track the progress of the engagement. We also check yung binigay na instructions na iintindihan ng staff natin. Consider kung yung work is being performed in accordance with our planned approach. Pag may na-encounter tayong problems, ina-address natin kagad. And we identify matters for consultation. Okay, sir, pagdating naman sa review, normally it means that the series of steps na pinagagawa sa staff natapos na. Okay, more experienced team members review the work of less experienced team members. Ano mga chine-check? Chine-check if the work performed is in accordance with firm policies and procedures. Nasunod ba ang standards? Nasunod ba ang applicable legal and regulatory requirements? May significant matters bang ni-raise for further consideration? Ano status nito? Nag-consult ba tayo? May conclusion ba based on consultations? Anong action taken? Anong in-implement based on these consultations? Naka-document ba yan? Okay, is there a need to revise the nature, timing, and extent of planned work? Okay, so sa review, kino-consider yun. Meron ba tayong babaguhin? Okay, the work performed supports the conclusions reached. Is it appropriately documented? The evidence obtained for an assurance engagement is sufficient and appropriate. So kasama yan sa kino-consider. Sufficient na ba? Appropriate na ba? Properly documented ba? Okay, yung ating mga trabahong ginawa. Yung bang objective ng engagement na achieve natin. So yun ang mga 4 considerations pagdating sa review. And that ends our quick bits pagdating sa audit planning. Next naman natin is consideration of internal controls.